that they spent a third round pick on a kicker and then joked about it.
What was the joke?
Well, at least we didn't spend it on a running back.
All right, and welcome back to the latest and greatest episode of the Shaving Points podcast. My name is Jayden May, joined as always by my co-host Quentin Krisko. Going to be breaking down the NFC West this week with our very special guest,
Jeff Krisko, on with us tonight.
Happy to be here. Happy to be here with my brother with a completely different spelling of the same last name. Very unique last name. No, I'm just happy to be here. Thanks you guys for having me here. I'm excited to talk the NFC West. I usually talk, you can see all the stuff on the side here. I usually talk fantasy football. That's usually what we do on all that. So I'm happy to talk some real football. I don't have to argue about ADP with anybody.
We're just going to jump right into the San Francisco 49ers. And to start that off, Jeff, we asked you before the show, we told you we were going to ask you this. What's your state of the 49ers? How do you see things as they stand right now?
So I'm gonna pontificate a little bit before I answer that question. So I've had season tickets since I moved to the Bay in 2011. So I was there for early Harbaugh. I went to a few games with Singletary. I've been there through thick and thin over the last decade and plus. And when I tell you that I am so concerned about the 49ers right now, I don't know what to think. If I had to put it in one word, I would say trepidation. Lost a ton of defensive linemen, lost a handful of offensive linemen. I don't know who the quarterback is week one. Nobody does. It could be Sam Darnold, Trey Lance, Brock Purdy. And until I see him take a snap with the Raiders, I'm not sure it's not Jimmy Garoppolo. They lost DeMeco Ryans. It's just a lot of the swagger that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch kind of show. Now it's kind of a put up or shut up time because they used a ton of picks to get Christian McCaffrey. They wasted a pick on a kicker. And it's a lot of like, hey, we know you guys, you think you're the smartest people in the room. Now it's time for you to prove it. And you've done it time and again, but now it's kind of like, ugh, they lost a lot. I wrote down everything they lost. It was like 15, 16 guys that played roles last year. So people are giving them the benefit of the doubt, but I think it's gonna be a slow start for the Niners. So there's a lot of trepidation.
Yeah, I think I was only able to fit 8 guys that they lost on our graphic, but the 8 I got, it's McGlinchey, Ebukam, Menahu, Ward, Mosley, Al-Shaair, Jimmy G, and Robbie Gould.
Yeah, and then
there were a few others in there too.
Yeah, like Daniel Brunskill, who's a interior offensive lineman for the Niners, more in the defensive backfield. They're kind of depth guys. Tarvarius Moore, Jason Verrett, who was great when he was healthy, who's never healthy. Dante Johnson, Emmanuel Mosley, who is actually kind of an underrated. Oh, you had Mosley. Okay, I was gonna say he's kind of an underrated guy. And then just a bunch of rotational defensive linemen, which is what really has me worried about the Niners this year. Is they lost a lot along the defensive line, and we were talking before the show. They do this. They kind of cycle through guys. They turn scrap heap guys into guys who go get 3-year $30 million contracts or whatever. So, but none of that says DeMeco Ryans. There's nothing on here that says I didn't say DeMeco Ryans intentionally. Yeah. That's the thing that has me worried because he studied at Robert Saleh's feet. He was the straw that stirred the drink, and now he's gone after losing Robert Saleh. And it's like, they just keep promoting from within. So in theory, it should be the same stuff, but I have no idea. That's what has me so worried.
DeMeco is a guy that around the league seemed to garner a lot of respect from a lot of former players and current players, of guys that played with him, guys that played under him. Seemed to be a guy that a lot of people talk very highly about. So
yeah, and the first time I felt old because I play my home league's an IDP league, so it's the first player that I've had on my fantasy team that is now a head coach. So I'm officially old.
Yeah, that DeMeco did he just knew how to structure what he was doing to guys' strengths so well. Mm-hmm. And I mean personally, I'm because you guys got in Steve WIlks, you got a guy who really did well though in his last stop when he got the interim head coach job. Like I thought he elevated that Panthers defense.
Yeah.
But on that front, I mean, you might go a different way with it, but what's something you're excited about for the 49ers this season?
Well, nervous about the defense. I'll say that, but something that I'm excited about it's more on the offensive side of the ball. I'll say, and it's seeing what a fully functional Kyle Shanahan offense with Christian McCaffrey, with George Kittle, with Deebo Samuel, with Kyle Juszczyk, and maybe Trey Lance. And Brandon Aiyuk. Like Brandon Aiyuk would be a starter, would be the number one on like 20 teams in this league. But seeing what all those guys do in a fully armed and functional like Kyle Shanahan offense. And honestly, I'm worried about the quarterback. I'm more worried about the defensive line, if we're being completely honest with you, because of how many guys they lost. And the Niners, like, they got big years out of Nick Mullins. They got big years of decent games out of CJ Beathard, and it's a lot of Kyle Shanahan doing his thing. And he's a chaotic dude. And I'm really excited to see what they can do with all these guys, plus Elijah Mitchell, plus Jawan Jennings, a lot of depth along that line.
Yeah. So I'm in a sicko league.
Oh,
it's a 32 team IDP league.
All right.
And yeah, I love the value of Sam Darnold here in this offense. I think if he gets his opportunity, I think this could be the place where Sam Darnold thrives. And you mentioned Brandon Aiyuk. I think Brandon Aiyuk's like one of the most underutilized players in the entire league. And either San Francisco is going to figure it out, or he's going to be a breakout star for a team like the Carolina Panthers in 2 years when he goes and signs a fat bag.
Yeah, I was going to say the Niners have it's first world problems. They have too many good players and too many like top of the line players where it kind of feels like a Brandon Aiyuk might get squeezed out, because how are you going to pay Trent Williams top of market, Christian McCaffrey top of market, Fred Warner top of market, Nick Bosa will have his contract by then. Did I say George Kittle, Deebo Samuel? It's like Brandon Aiyuk, some team is going to get a stud in 2 years. Like you said, he's going to be an absolute star. And then also another guy, if I had to pick one player that I'm excited about, I really want to see after his breakout how Talanoa Hufanga plays this year. Because Hufanga was a breakout star last year. Like, he was a stud, a Pro Bowl, I believe, second team All-Pro. He was incredible, but there were a lot of holes to his game. Towards the end of the year, teams started to play on his aggressiveness. Now, he and Fred Warner are basically the same player, just in kind of different ends of the same spectrum of that coverage / thumper guy. So I hope in offseason with him and Fred Warner, he can kind of temper those problems that he had towards the end of the year, because teams were playing on that. They were showing like they were going to go in a particular direction towards Hufanga. Hufanga would break there, and they put a guy over where Hufanga used to be, and that would cause some problems. So I really hope that's one guy I'm excited to see his growth this year is Talanoa Hufanga.
On the Aiyuk front, in the 49ers having too many good players.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, on the way home from the Senior Bowl, me and my buddy, we were driving along like 10 hours because we both live in Texas. So we were just like, we'll just drive back. But on the way back, we're just dreaming up ways that the Bears can somehow get Brandon Aiyuk because the 49ers have too many good players and they can't pay him. Like, and it was just like we were just daydreaming over this idea of Brandon Aiyuk. I love that guy. I think awesome.
Aiyuk and Fields would be well together with DJ Moore underneath. I think that's a nice little offensive core to get going.
I'm sure they would give you Chase Claypool for him.
That's okay. I'll take the second rounder instead.
But so moving on to our last question here, what's something you're worried about within the 49ers this season?
That they spent a third round pick on a kicker and then joked about it. They're too cocky.
Wait, what was the joke?
Kyle Shanahan said something along the lines of, well, at least we didn't spend it on a running back, making light of the fact that they, between Tyrion Davis-Price and Trey Sermon, they spent 2 third rounders and got 80 snaps combined out of those guys, maybe. But it's the cockiness. That's what it is. It's the, I don't know if, can I cuss on this?
Yeah.
It's the, you can't tell us shit attitude that this team has, which is nice until you get kicked in the teeth.
It's the Rams GM wearing the shirt said, fuck them picks.
Fuck them picks. That's exactly what it is. And it's because what it is it bit them in the ass once already. Javon Kinlaw. They traded DeForest Buckner, used a pick to take Javon Kinlaw, and said, "This is we're going to save money, and we're going to get as good of a player. We're the smartest guys in the room." And it didn't work out. Javon Kinlaw, please don't yell at me on IG Live or whatever he did. We're spitting chicken everywhere. I don't know if you guys saw that. He yelled at a 49ers beat writer.
That.
Yeah, but dude's a bust. I'm sorry. You can't stay healthy. It is what it is. And they did it this year with Jimmy Ward and Jair Brown in the third round, and they were saying the same things, and it's got me nervous. Third rounder, not so bad, but it's this cockiness, this 49ers cockiness, which when they're blowing out teams 43-17, fine. I love it. In June, July, and August, it's got me super, super nervous, especially because this team might be starting Sam Darnold week 1. You do not have any right to be cocky starting Sam Darnold week 1.
Sam Darnold does have the blood of Dick Hammer running through him, though.
Yeah. I mean, what's funny too is how upset do you think Christian McCaffrey was to be like, oh man, this guy again? I got to deal with this guy again.
I don't think Christian McCaffrey cares because he knows he's
getting 20 touches.
The offense begins and ends with him, so yeah. I don't think he cares who the quarterback is.
That's true. I just thought it was funny that Brock Purdy doing great, rips his arm apart. It's like, oh, maybe Trey Lance. Oh, Trey Lance might not be healthy. Oops, now it's Sam Darnold again. Like, that's a real.
So what is going on with the Trey Lance situation? Is he ever going to play? Is he ever is he going to be traded? Like, what? Because the sentiment that I hear seems like if Brock Purdy's healthy, he's playing. If he's not playing, Darnold's playing, and Trey Lance is just in the building.
Yeah. So there's like two parts to the Trey Lance thing. So there's the Trey Lance part and there's the Brock Purdy part. A lot of people want to say Trey Lance is a bust. Dude has barely played. He broke his leg on a rush up the middle.
He didn't play in college either.
Yeah, he never played. So do I wish they took Justin Fields? 100,000%. Like that's who I was rooting for, that the Niners are going to take at 3. I knew it wasn't going to be Mac Jones, but he's an incomplete right now. That's the Trey Lance of it. I think the Niners are just going to cut their losses. They're not going to trade him for like a third or fourth or whatever and have him go be a star elsewhere. They're not going to do that. But I do think that if Brock Purdy is healthy, he's the starter. Because if there's one thing that Kyle Shanahan is he's loyal. If you've done something for him, he'll do something for you. He's going to ride you until he can't. This is why Jimmy Garoppolo was the quarterback for the last 5 years. Because he wasn't great, but he was a known commodity. And Kyle Shanahan said, I can win with Jimmy Garoppolo. I got to the Super Bowl with Jimmy Garoppolo. I got one drive away from the Super Bowl again with Jimmy Garoppolo. Niners rack up NFC championship games with Jimmy Garoppolo. Is Jimmy Garoppolo good? He's fine. He's like, we joke that he's the
I love that phrase.
He's fine.
Yeah. I have the phrase. I have the argument all the time about Jared Goff. Yeah.
Yeah. He's fine. He's in the same tier as Jared Goff. There's this blob of guys that it's like you can win with them, but you're not going to win because of them. It's Jared Goff.
Allen.
Yeah, it's Jared Goff. It's Jared. No, it's Jared Goff. It's Derek Carr. It's Jimmy Garoppolo. It's
Josh Allen.
Kirk Cousins sometimes. Sure, I'll say Josh Allen. There you go.
Justin Herbert.
I'm not giving you Herbert. I love Herbert. He's my boy. But he's fine. And that's kind of what Brock Purdy is. Like, Brock Purdy can execute the 49ers offense very well. And that's what Kyle Shanahan is worried about. His quarterback doesn't need to be a guy who does everything. He just needs to be a guy who does what Kyle Shanahan tells him to do. And that's what Brock Purdy found success. That's, Nick Mullins, people were trying to convince me that he was a top 25 quarterback in the NFL. Dude has not done anything since leaving San Francisco. Like, that's what Kyle Shanahan's offense can do. So
while we're on the quarterback topic, what's the primary difference in that you noticed in Kyle Shanahan's play calling and what their game plans are from Garoppolo to Purdy? Like, what changed?
So I don't know if a lot changed, more so that the deeper shots were actually looked at. Because if you look at a Brock Purdy, like say Brock Purdy and Jimmy Garoppolo are running the same play. Like, let's say it's, there's a running back up and out, and then there's a slant from the outside receiver and let's say 3 wide and they run like a 3 verticals type thing. Jimmy Garoppolo is riding that running back. Jimmy Garoppolo is hitting that check down. Jimmy Garoppolo is going for the short, quick pass. He's going for the 4 yards, the 5 yards, the more like 5 yards is 5 yards, West Coast offense sort of thing. Whereas with Brock Purdy, he would stand there, he would roll out because he is a lot more mobile than Jimmy Garoppolo. And he's looking, it feels like every play he's looking to get to a first down. It's the same plays. It's just Brock Purdy ran him with a lot more swagger. Brock Purdy was probably
Big 12 offense, baby.
Yeah. And you know what? To be honest with you, that was not the Brock Purdy I saw at Iowa State. The Brock Purdy I saw at Iowa State had some processing issues, and he had the slowest release I can remember seeing. Dude just kind of had like that wind up toy.
Brock Purdy. I don't know if it was Kyle Shanahan or what, but Brock Purdy held Iowa State back from a shot at a national title and a Big 12 championship his last year. I thought Iowa State was one of the best teams in the nation, and for some reason he just couldn't get it done. And when San Francisco took him late in that draft and he had to come in, I was like, if Kyle Shanahan hasn't done anything with this kid, like they're gonna be in trouble. Yeah. But like the years leading up to that senior season at Iowa State, he showed a lot of things to where, like, going into that season, I was like, Brock Purdy's gonna be a Heisman candidate. They're gonna win the Big 12. They're going to make a run at the playoff. And from the start of that season, it was just measurable. Like, I don't know what happened to him. And then last year we saw the younger Brock Purdy of his early years at Iowa State, where he was making plays, he was getting it done, he was pushing the ball downfield. Mm-hmm. Just the I'm here to win, don't give a fuck attitude. And that was what Iowa State needed his senior year. And for I don't know what happened. For some reason, it wasn't there.
Yeah, and it could have been as simple as he was in his own head, because that's the one thing that Kyle Shanahan really does for quarterbacks is he simplifies it. And he says, you do this, you do this, you do this, and if none of it's there, then the play's over. You're probably sacked by now. But it's not like, all right, figure it out. It's very controlled. It's very measured. And I think that kind of, Brock Purdy, I think he got into his own head his senior year. That's why his processing was so slow. That's why, he felt apprehensive throwing the ball his last year at Iowa State. And I think Kyle Shanahan really simplified it for him, which is the benefit of the Kyle Shanahan offense. And in the couple games before Garoppolo came in, he was doing, a couple of games before Purdy came in, Garoppolo was finally rounding into shape. And I joked, I was like, I think Kyle Shanahan sat Jimmy Garoppolo down in a room and he wrote, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Aiyuk, Kyle Juszczyk on a board and said, just fucking throw it to one of them. It doesn't matter. Just fucking throw it to one of them. They will get you a first down. And I think that's what he started to do. And that's what Brock Purdy did. Like Brock Purdy, Jimmy Garoppolo lived to get to second and 5.
Yeah.
Like that's what he was trying to do on every play. He was like, all right, let's get to 2nd and 5. Brock Purdy was like, let's get that first down, baby. And it was that pushing it downfield, and it's more confidence than what Garoppolo had. And I think it was just simplifying it. And that's what Kyle Shanahan's offense could do. It can make you feel good as a quarterback. And that's what happened with Purdy.
Okay. It's also kind of nice. It's also kind of nice when you can walk out there in 22 personnel and the defense has to match it only to realize you're actually in 11 personnel.
Yeah.
Because you have all these players that are like George Kittle's like a receiver.
Yeah.
McCaffrey's like a receiver. Like you can just mess with defenses. I love it. It's incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah. But that's before we get down to the nuts and bolts of this, I just had one fantasy question for you.
Sure.
So when you look at the tight end position in fantasy, it's Travis Kelce and everybody else. Mm-hmm. Travis Kelce is a wide receiver 1 in fantasy. Mm-hmm. Value wise, but is this the year that another tight end can close the gap on Travis Kelce to where it's not just Travis Kelce on like a 1A tier and then the next closest is like 2B to him? Or is this still going to be like, can Kittle be the one to close that? Or is it still just going to be the same old? You have Travis Kelce putting up wide receiver 1 numbers, and the next closest tight end is a normal good tight end.
I'm going to say yes. This is the year that a tight end closes the gap, but no, it's not George Kittle.
Okay.
Reason being was 2 years ago, Mark Andrew closed the gap, and with Todd Monk in there in Baltimore, they're going to throw. And tell me who on that offense is fully established and has done something in the last year, because Odell Beckham's a name. Zay Flowers is a rookie. Rashad Bateman was all hype. They're going to throw. Mark Andrews is probably looking at 135 targets, and that can beat Travis Kelce. One of the reasons is it's not something I'm primarily concerned about, but it's just something that's tapping me in the back of my mind about this Kansas City Chiefs offense. I believe Travis Kelce is 33. They don't have a wide receiver one. They don't have a running back one. They do have Patrick Mahomes.
Isaiah Pacheco's good.
Isaiah Pacheco is very good, but Isaiah Pacheco doesn't have that like jack of all trades type thing, because he doesn't catch the ball. He's just kind of
McKinnon.
They do have Jerick McKinnon. So they have this like mix and match of like this wide receiver one, or sorry, running back one, running back two thing. They also have CEH there, who's a better running back three than he is running back one, but they don't have this like guy that Patrick Mahomes can lean on if Travis Kelce gets double covered. Like he can dump it off to Jerick McKinnon or what have you. There is a stat I saw, and forgive me, I don't remember where I saw it, where he had one touchdown pass over, I think, 19 air yards last year, which is not Patrick Mahomes' game at all. Like you think of Patrick Mahomes, you think he's dropping back, chucking it downfield. He was dinking and dunking touchdowns. So
I mean, we're both on the Patty Mahomes train. And I wasn't trying to like go onto like a fantasy tangent here.
No,
we will have our fantasy talk here in a couple of weeks.
It's just something that's tapping me in the back of the head about the Chiefs. That's just kind of like it's bothering me. It's like, are they really going into the year with Kadarius Toney as their wide receiver one? Like, are you?
They might.
Man. They'll just spam the SMU kid targets like he got at SMU.
Oh, Rice? Yeah, they could do that.
We'll have our fantasy talk here in about 3 or 4 weeks, probably after we finish the division talk.
Nice.
So we'll definitely have to bring you back for that. But
I'm in.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to get down too big of a rabbit hole with that, because you start talking, then I start talking, then all of a sudden we're 20 minutes deep into fantasy.
Oh,
not trying to do that right now.
Yeah.
I was just wondering about Kittle. Is like, can he be the guy to step up? And I do like Mark Andrews as well. And there are like Kelce can't do it forever until he can. We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah,
I was just more wondering about Kittle.
Yeah, that might be a me problem on our podcast. We'll start off being like, okay, let's talk about Austin Eckler. Then like 15 minutes later, we're breaking down like DJ Chark versus Adam Thielen. And we're like, hold on, how did we get here?
Yeah. So I wasn't trying to get too down in a rabbit hole. So.
Yeah.
Back on the 49ers front, one question I got is, and this was a guy who I was big on in the draft, and he went higher than I even thought he would, was Danny Gray. Is Danny Gray going to grip some more snaps from somebody, or is he just kind of stuck?
So I thought Danny Gray was there for Trey Lance to develop with. So he doesn't really fit anything else. There's no room for him on the 49ers offense except for just as a chuck it 9 route guy. And that's not what Sam Darnold does. It's not really what Brock Purdy does. So if it's not Trey Lance, Danny Gray is a man without a home, because Juwan Jennings is an incredible number 3 receiver. You've got Aiyuk, you've got Deebo, you've got Juszczyk, you've got Kittle, you've got all these options. I even like Latu, who they drafted at tight end. And there's just not room for Danny
everyone's
Gray.
Down on Latu. I liked Latu as well.
Yeah, Latu had his last year was not great, but I like Latu. He's converted to tight end. So I give those guys a little bit extra time to develop. But I am worried that Danny Gray is another wasted pick, because he just doesn't fit anywhere. Like without Trey Lance, there's no Danny Gray. Cause like when he was drafted, I said, oh, this is a pick for Trey Lance. This isn't a pick for Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah.
Cause that's the only role he can play on this team. He can do it well, but not with Sam Darnold, not with Brock Purdy.
Okay. And then who's starting at right tackle?
My guess would be Colton McKivitz. He only had like 70 snaps last year, but that's my guess. It's got to be Colton McKivitz, because it's rough letting Brunskill and McGlinchey go. My guess is Colton McKivitz, because he was serviceable in stints last year, which is the nicest thing I can say about him.
I mean, hey, I feel like for the last 2 years, I've looked at the 49ers O-line and been like, how the hell are they going to make this work? Yeah. And it's like, he just gets these big athletes. And in researching for this, I actually ended up going back and pulling all the draft info from the guys. Like, holy shit, these guys are all 6'5" plus. Like,
yeah, they're huge,
insane athletes. No wonder he's just making it work. They're all giants.
They also have my favorite player, maybe of all time, in Trent Williams.
Oh, Trent Williams is a monster. I love Trent Williams. He might be
the best football player in the league.
He is. The way he can take 250-pound guys and make them look like they're 110 soaking wet. He just takes them and just throws them. He'll throw them and hit the right tackle in the head. It feels like he just picks them up and throws them to the other side. Like he is a monster. And when he retires, I'm going to be very sad because I went from Joe Staley to Trent Williams, and now I don't know what the Niners are going to do. They got to figure it out because maybe they'll get the last 2 years of Laramie Tunsil or something. I don't know.
How Washington messed up that whole ordeal will never make sense to me. Like, to me, he is the best football player in the league. I mean, he can do everything, and he's just a freak out there. I mean, Tyron Smith was kind of like that like 6 years ago, and then he had the back issues and everything else and kind of slowed down a little bit, still very serviceable. But like Trent Williams, like with his speed, his quickness, his strength, his mobility, just everything that he can do, just so fun to watch, especially from like an O-line perspective. Just the way he just bodies people.
Yeah, and Kyle Shanahan does chaotic stuff like putting him at fullback or putting him in motion. Like he did that against the Packers, and it was like a 3-yard gain, but he absolutely killed a guy. You cannot. It should be illegal to put Trent Williams in motion. I'm sorry, that man. That's not allowed.
It's not about the gain. It's about the fact that guy is going to be shook for the next 5 years.
Exactly. Yeah.
They should have put him at quarterback in that championship game last year.
I would have loved that. I will never forget the look of fear in Christian McCaffrey's eyes when they were like basically like, "Hey man, you might be playing quarterback." But
yeah, he'd only been in the offense for like 4 weeks at that point.
Yeah, Trent Williams might be as good as everybody else on the line put together, which is something that I'm worried about. Actually, I take that back. Aaron Banks, you guys were talking about big athletic dudes. They took Aaron Banks in the second round in 2021, and they're like, yeah, he is way too heavy to do what we need him to do. And I'm like, why the hell did you draft him in the second round then? And then last year, they had him shed like 40 pounds. And for an interior offensive lineman, I gave him the highest praise that you can give an interior offensive lineman, which is I forgot he was there. Yeah, I forgot he was there because nobody was getting past him. He was making holes. He wasn't blowing blocks. I forgot he was there, and he was one of the best players. He is one of the best unsung players on the interior offensive line, I think, in the league because he was fantastic last year.
Aaron Banks is one of the people who has made me just realize sometimes you just can't make numbers work for players, like especially on the offensive line. Mm-hmm. He's one of them. No matter how I look at whatever stats there are out there on him, it always comes up poorly. But I know I've seen him play and been like, that guy's pretty good.
Yeah,
so he's like I have to like ignore his PFF grades and his numbers about like pressures and what have you that's out there. I mean, offensive line is so limited from a number standpoint already, but like he just doesn't grade well anywhere. But I don't trust it anymore because I know he's good.
Yeah, I love stats. Like I'm a numbers nerd and all that stuff, but sometimes you just gotta trust the eye test. It's like sometimes you grade something out and you have to test it against something, and sometimes it's just wrong. Like there was a stat a couple of years ago where somebody was like, actually Aaron Donald's bad against run defense by this metric, and all I saw was, hey, I made a broken run defense metric. That's all I saw. Back in college I was playing around with because I was gonna do fantasy baseball stuff first. And I was playing around making my own stats. I always checked. I said, is Mike Trout in the top 10 in this stat? If it was yes, okay, that stat's not a mess. And it's that same thing with PFF. Sometimes the stuff's just a mess and you just got to set it aside.
Yeah. And so let's kick it over to the defensive side. Man, Bosa, Armstead, and Hargrave.
Yep.
It caused some problems this year.
That's kind of all you need along the defensive line.
You're going to be able to tell where they're shifting always. So you can send pressure the other way and you're good, right?
Well, I mean, I kind of feel like like Drake Jackson's going to come into his own and kind of put some balance on there. Cleveland Farrell, we'll see how he does with Wilks, but it's just, I feel like, Bosa and Armstead, they are too much for offensive lines to handle, that it's like, go ahead, try to run away from them and see how that goes. Because they'll kick Armstead outside. Yeah, they'll kick Armstead inside, outside. Health is a big problem. It's been a problem with Eric Armstead for a while too, and same with Bosa. I mean, the guy came into the league hurt, so. But they make the holes, and for runs and stuff, that's Greenlaw, Warner, they do a great job of filling in. Same with Hufanga.
Just to clarify, I meant the 49ers will be able to tell which way the O-line is shifting at all times. They'll be able to rush the other way. I'm excited to watch this D-line play, man. Now, how do you think Steve WIlks, and if you're not if you don't know on Steve WIlks, what his defense is that well, that's fine. But how do you think it's going to change from what D'Amico was doing to what he's doing? Any type of different coverages, or more pressure, less pressure? What do you see happening there?
One thing that Wilks likes to do that D'Amico didn't really do and Saleh didn't really do is he likes the corner blitz a lot more out of nickel. He likes the nickel blitz a lot more. And I'm not quite sure how that's going to work out, because we have a new nickel. It's going to be Jair Brown, who there's this hybrid. Yeah. Well, the Niners have this hybrid nickel safety role that they have.
Yeah.
So it's what Jimmy Ward played. Yeah, like a dime backer, but it's also the dude is also more like a linebacker as well. So it's kind of almost like a joker role. And I got to see how that works, because if Jair Brown can pull that off, then I think it'll be great. But I also think that the 49ers, one of the things that the Niners have done, and this is why you see Niners offensive, defensive coordinators all around the league, is they have a system. You come in, you learn the system, you execute the system. It doesn't matter what you did before. This is your system now. So I think that Steve WIlks will put his own flavor, his own flair on it. But there's a 49ers defensive scheme that's built around the players that they have. It's why they replaced Jimmy Ward with Brown. It's because when they let Jimmy Ward go, I was like, man, that is an unsung part of how this defense rolls. Everybody's a thumper. And
can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Where did Jimmy Ward go?
Actually, I'm not 100% sure. Oh yeah, Houston? He went. Yeah.
What went with D'Amico?
Yeah, that's right.
I honestly didn't know Jimmy Ward was gone until we got on here.
Yeah, I knew he left. I couldn't remember where he went, because I was just like, oh boy, that's bad. But,
I just had to chime in real quick.
But I really think that it's one of those things where if you take out one leg, the whole table falls. So if you kind of change things too much, you're going to have some trouble. So I think it's going to be a lot of the same schemes as last year. Maybe the blitzes are going to come from different places. But the Niners mostly got home. Their main blitzers were going to be Warner and Hufanga. And I have no data to back that up. That's just anecdotal. There wasn't a lot coming from the corner. But they also didn't, Jimmy Ward was the only one who could really do that. And he didn't like to do it a lot.
So that makes sense. So, I mean, the rest of this roster's, the roster is pretty clean on the defensive side. I don't see a lot that I really have that many questions about.
It's definitely one of the best rosters in football outside of quarterback.
Yeah. The one spot that just eats at my soul is trusting that Tashaun Gibson is good.
Ooh, Tashaun Gibson. I cannot. Every time that man is on the football field, I watch him. I'm like, that guy is good. But then I remember it's Tashaun Gibson. But it's it works. It's that thing where every part of the table leg supports every other table leg. And it's Tashaun Gibson, he's just kind of, I think Hufanga and I think Ward in front of him, they kind of clear him up to just do his thing. And doing his thing, he plays a decent center field, he'll get a decent amount of picks and stuff. But if he's got to lead the defense, or if something happens to Hufanga and it's him, and I don't even know who's the other, who's the backup? I guess technically it'd be Brown. Technically it'd be Brown, and
they got him and Miles Hartsfield is who I got written down here.
Okay, so it's I don't know how much I trust that, because Gibson, it makes me nervous. It makes me nervous, but this is a great second act for him. I think it's a great second act for Gibson. It's just that's a huge prop to John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, because I remember the COVID year. That's when they expanded practice squads, and they signed to Sean Gibson to the practice squad. And I was like, wow, that guy has fallen really far. But they just kind of brought him along slowly. And I guess they kind of rebuilt him as a player. And he's actually, if you cover up the name, like that's a pretty good player. But I think a lot of that has to do with scheme too. But they hide him a lot is basically what it comes down to.
Yeah, because when he was in Chicago, it was like him and one other guy they were who quarterbacks picked on. They were like, why would I throw at Eddie Jackson or Kyle Fuller or Jalen Johnson? I'll throw at these guys.
Yeah, exactly.
It was just like, and it was like just busted coverages, which might, more come down to coaching than anything. If they were trying to ask him to do stuff that was not very clear, or they did, only repped a few times in practice, that could be tough. But I mean, all the credit to Gibson. He's turned it around and he's playing good football now.
Yeah.
So let's see. Let's take a look at the schedule and see. Let's just run through it and see where we got these guys sitting at.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Look at the schedule. Let us know in the comments who you think's going to win that NFC West, and
I mean it's a 2-team race.
What the totals are? It might be. I mean, don't sleep on the Cardinals.
Oh, I'm in a coma on the Cardinals.
Hey.
I mean, come on.
The Cardinals.
Clayton Tune? Clayton Tune, let's go.
I love Clayton Tune coming out of Houston. But we're not talking about Clayton Tune. We're talking about San Francisco 49ers.
Okay.
Talking about their strength schedule. Strength schedule is 28, one of the lowest in the leagues. Obviously, whenever you're in a weak division, your strength schedule is going to be lower. And let's just kind of break this down starting week 1. Go to Pittsburgh, go to LA. Then you have Giants and Arizona coming to you. Pretty good start to the season if you're a 49ers fan and you don't know who your quarterback's going to be. If maybe Brock Purdy is your guy and he misses a couple of weeks, like not the worst weeks to miss there.
Mm-hmm.
But so we're starting out that 4-game stretch right there. Like, what are you looking at? Like, what are you worried about? Like, does Pittsburgh worry you week 1 going to Pittsburgh? Like, Kenny Pickett and the boys, like Mike Tomlin's one of the best coaches in the league, like always seems to figure it out no matter what. Like, does that week 1 game scare you a little bit? It's like last year or whatever, they went to the Bears and the Bears had the rain parade. Like, Are you worried about the rain parade here in week 1?
The 49ers do everything as chaotically as possible. There's something that I sometimes say where if the 49ers were to go 16-1, they would lose the first week because they got to start off the year as poorly as possible. And it's not Kenny Pickett that worries me. I don't know who the quarterback is, but I know that on the other side, you got TJ Watt coming for you. You got Minka Fitzpatrick ready to pick off 2 passes, no matter who's back there. And Mike Tomlin will
the king of one-liners.
Yeah.
You give me red paint and I'll paint that barn red.
But that's the one that worries me. That, and honestly, Niners do struggle with running quarterbacks. That Danny Dimes game, that Giants game, if they keep it up, what Brian Dable did last year with them, if they keep it up, that's one that kind of worries me. Home opener. It's a Thursday night game, short week. Luckily, they're only coming up from LA, and the Giants, they got to travel cross country. So that one doesn't worry me as much, but if I had to rank my worries, I would not say it's the Cardinals at all in top 4. Sorry. And I would not say it's the Rams with I'm pretty sure I'm starting at nickel corner for the Rams in week 2 because I don't know who is on their defense other than Aaron Donald.
I could probably start with the Rams at this point.
Yeah.
So obviously best case scenario is 4-0 in this, this first 4 weeks. Realistically, are you happy with a 2-2, a 3-1 start here?
Realistically, I am ecstatic with the 3-1 start.
Okay.
Especially with all the questions surrounding the quarterback. And I will be reaching for the antacids if it's 2-2, because it means that either the Niners lost to the Rams, which they don't do, or they lost to the Cardinals or the Giants, which makes me worried about their long-term prospects. If they drop one to the Steelers, fine. That's like you said, Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin makes everything work. So if they're 2-2, I'm struggling. If they're 3-1, I'm very happy. If they're 4-0, I'm dancing in the streets.
Yeah, and then we go to your next 4 going into the bye. You have Dallas that you don't have to worry about. That's an easy win. Then you have going to Cleveland, going to Minnesota. Minnesota's the biggest frauds in the NFL last year. And then you get Cincinnati coming into town before your bye week. Cincinnati's got to worry you a little bit. Minnesota, I wouldn't be worried about. Cleveland, I wouldn't be worried about. Dallas is an easy win. So like that's another 3-1 stretch coming.
I would
to you.
actually,
So
I would say
you're talking 6-2 going into the bye.
I would give them 5-3. I think they're going to drop one of the Cowboys or the Browns.
They're not just
because the Niners do stupid things sometimes. They have
every Niners lose to Dallas.
That's fair. So they're going to lose to Cleveland in Cleveland.
I'm a Cowboys fan. You're not gonna, I promise you're not going to lose to Dallas.
I think we're both trying to reverse jinx the other one. Like,
I don't. The only time I've ever seen the Dallas Cowboys beat the 49ers in my lifetime is when Tony Romo broke his rib and punctured his lung, and he just like went out there and balled out because Tony Romo's the baddest motherfucker to ever play the game, and went out there with a collapsed lung and a broken rib and just like did the thing in 2011. So.
Yeah, that game, I actually have a really funny story. Just a complete side tangent. It's one of my favorite stories at Candlestick. So I was at that game with my wife's family. My mother-in-law accidentally kicks over a guy's beer because there's no cup holders in Candlestick. And you're supposed to put your beer all the way to the back, and he didn't do that. And he freaks out. She has no idea this is happening. I'm like, hey, man, sorry, here's $10, for a beer, whatever. And he says, no, you have to go get it. I'm like, I'm not going to do that, man. Like, you had your beer in the wrong spot. You're lucky you're getting $10 or whatever. And so he pulls
anything.
Yeah, he pulls out a wad of cash. He's like, I don't need your fucking money. And so he takes my $10, he rips it and throws it at me. And I'm like, okay, so I still have my $10. You don't have a beer. What did you accomplish here? So that's one of my favorite stories. Sorry, it was at that Tony Romo game in 2011. So that's one of my favorite
that was
stories.
a legendary Tony Romo game.
Yeah. So I would give them 2-2 because they're gonna drop the Bengals game. I think that this passing offense
Bengals are
much.
good. I love the Bengals this year.
Yeah, they're gonna drop the Bengals game. I agree. Minnesota Vikings, biggest frauds in the history of the NFL last year, and they sold the farm. They sold everything. So that's an easy dub. And then one of Cleveland or Dallas, they're gonna lose. I think they're gonna get swept by Ohio this year.
Okay.
So
that gives them 5-3.
5-3.
Yep.
5-3. They're coming off the bye. You got a surging Jacksonville team with a red hot Trevor Lawrence, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And then this Tampa team, we haven't talked about NFC South yet. A Baker scorned is a Baker to be worried about.
Baker might be benched by that point. It might be Kyle Trask.
Hey, if there's one thing we know, it's that angry Baker is capable of impossible things.
Yes. I would not sleep on that Tampa Bay team, I'll tell you that much. But then you have your first Seattle game going to Seattle. If they're good right there, that crowd's going to be red hot. Thursday night football, coming off a short week after going to Tampa Bay, or after Tampa Bay coming to you, I'm sorry. It could be tough. And then Philly's an easy win. Philly's trash. Most overrated team in the league. Jalen Hurts, trash.
We're gonna get Hurts
again.
Purdy part 2. Let's go.
Yeah, Hurts is trash. So, but yeah, this next stretch of the schedule after the bye, how do you feel about that? I like the way your schedule breaks. All in all, for a first place schedule,
it's not bad for
you play who you play. You play who you play in a schedule, and the way it breaks, if you break it down into quarters, it's not a bad break.
This is probably the toughest stretch. Seattle twice and the Eagles. I think the Niners will handle the Jags. I think they'll handle the Buccaneers. They're going to drop one of the Seahawks games. Niners do not win in Seattle. It's one of the rules of the NFL. Like the NFC West always breaks the same direction with the Rams, the Seahawks, and the Niners. Doesn't matter if they're good or not. The Rams always beat the Seahawks always beat the Niners, and the Niners always beat the Rams. It's just how it works. So they're going to drop the Seahawks game. And the Philly game, I'll give it to the Niners. There you go. Just for you. Just for the Cowboys fan there. and then they'll win this Seattle game. So I'm going to give them a cautious 4-1 in this stretch.
4-1. So we're 4-1,
Right.
3-1, and 2-2.
Yeah, 9-4.
9-4 going into the final stretch.
Yeah.
You got Arizona, Baltimore, Washington, Rams. So Baltimore's gonna be tough. I like Lamar a lot.
I love Lamar. I think Lamar is one of the most, for a guy who already won MVP. I don't understand why people are still saying that he has to prove something. I don't get it. He's incredible. He's amazing. So that's the one that the Niners lose in this stretch. The Baltimore Ravens. The rest, trash jokes. Get them out of here.
So we're at 13-4.
Yep.
Okay. So if I'm breaking down the schedule, I'm
No, we're 12-5. 12-5.
12-5. So you like the over on wins.
Mhm.
If you're asking me, I'm going under on wins. I think they lose to Arizona once. I think they lose to Dallas. I think they lose to Philadelphia. I know
Dallas.
You spent 10 minutes trying to convince me that they weren't going to lose to Dallas. That's brain versus heart right there.
Trying to be objectively unobjective here.
That's right.
I do like the pieces Dallas added to that offense. I think they're a more complete team at this point in the season. I think some of San Francisco's best players have a history of getting injured playing Dallas that late into the season. I think they could be missing a few guys. Mm-hmm. I still think San Francisco's going to be the better team, and if they meet in the playoffs, Dallas will probably lose again. But that part of the schedule, Dallas is usually hitting their stretch, and then playing Philly that late in the season. Philly is just a wagon at this point. They have depth on depth on depth. I mean, the way they manage the salary cap is wizard-like. I mean, it doesn't even make sense. And then, I am higher on some of the division opponents than you are. I do think Arizona can steal a game or two. I think this is a 9 or a 10 win team. I'll take the under 10.5 if you're forcing me to take. If you're forcing me to take a total, I'll take 9.5 or 10. So I'll take under 10.5 there. What do you think, Q?
Yeah, I mean, I'd avoid it because I see them right around 10, maybe.
Yeah,
11,
I'm the same one.
I feel like Vegas nailed it, so I'm just like, I don't want to bet it. You know, if I'm going to bet it, I might take the under. I might. It's tough. Yeah. Honestly, if I'm doing anything,
I think the best value here
probably is NFC champs.
Yeah,
I think that's the best value on the board.
Plus 350. I think that's great value because, I mean, you look at the rest of the NFC, you're going to be going against Dallas. You're going to be going against Philly. You're going to be going against the NFC South champions who maybe the Panthers. Like, I don't know who that's going to be. And then NFC North, I mean, not a whole
Lions. Let's go. Dan Campbell.
NFC North.
That's what I said. Lions.
Oh. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, Lions are definitely going to be there. Lions are definitely going to be tough. But, I mean,
just so you know, Jeff, our motto for the last 2 years has been "Don't sleep on the Lions." So we're finally moving on. We're looking for a new team now.
Yeah,
we're part of this series of picking which one.
One of my co-hosts is
a
huge Lions fan, massive Lions fan, and I'm a Kings fan. And I've told Walker Kelly, one of my co-hosts, for years that the Kings and the Lions are the same team in different sports. And I said, hey man, I sat there and I said, I'm bestowing the beam team to the Lions. They are the new beam team. They can have this. So I think they're winning the NFC North. They're going to do it this year. So I'm real happy about that.
Lions have everything they need. I mean, Jared Goff is top 15 quarterback. No doubt.
He's definitely top 25. Somewhere between 15 and 25. I'll give you that. He's in the same group as Jimmy Garoppolo. They're all destined to be he's
in the same group as Josh Allen.
Stop that. He's good. I like Josh Allen. I like Justin Herbert. You're not going to make me besmirch either of those guys. Jared Goff, I can besmirch all the time. Like old Rams, Jared Goof, I can pull that Niners NFC West stuff out.
Went to a Super Bowl.
Yeah. So did Jimmy Garoppolo.
Possible.
All right, Jeff. So if you're a betting man What do you like on here, if anything?
What's your best value here? What are you taking? 10.5 is probably even odds. You got playoffs at minus 500 if you take yes. Winning the division at minus 175. NFC champs at plus 350 and Super Bowl champs at plus 850.
Honestly, I'm with you guys on NFC champs. I got them to 12 wins. I don't feel great about Dallas. I don't feel great about Philly. I went balls out on Philly just to make you happy, Jay. And you talked me into Dallas. So it's like, so I don't like.
Probably will win that Dallas game. I almost promise you're going to win that game.
Well, I sure hope so. But NFC champ, the NFC is just it's not very strong. Like you look,
it's not very strong, but it's not weak either.
Yeah, but it's not like you can just pencil in like, okay, the Chiefs and the Bengals, those guys are gonna go. Those are probably your AFC Championship contenders. Like there's a group of teams for the NFC, and the Niners are in that group, and the value there is great because the quarterback is problems right now. I think that's why the value is so good there. I also don't think that any quarterback in that room is winning them the Super Bowl. So they could get all the way to the Super Bowl. I just don't think they're going to win it. And it's Philly and the Niners and the Seahawks. I honestly think are the best three teams in the
So
NFC
we have the Niners versus the Texans in the Super Bowl. Who's winning?
Niners. They know everything that's wrong with DeMeco Ryans.
You think they're going to beat CJ Stroud in the place though?
I hope so. I would never show my face. I would never show my face again if the Niners lost to the Houston Texans in the Super Bowl.